Elizabeth pushed back from her desk in frustration. St. Timothy's was a small school with rich resources. The parents were supportive, mostly. The staff dedicated, the student body strong. They had the resource room, the reset room, and speech therapy. But test scores were in a gradual decline. Was it the Common Core? Had the state changed the test? Somewhere deep down inside, she was grateful for the lost battle 10 years ago when the school began. It would have broken her heart to cancel daily mass to get more classroom time. As it was now, she could still blame the parents for choosing art, music, and gym over daily mass attendance. Somehow St. Joseph Academy in Walton made it work. What were their test scores? She got up, swung out the door with a nod to Terry, the school secretary. Only 5 strides down the corridor, Elizabeth stopped abruptly. "Jacob, what are you doing here, loitering in the hall? Return to class immediately." "But, Miss Rose—" "No excuses. Back to class." "Yes, ma'am." Jacob slowly turned and walked back to the 8th grade room. Elizabeth watched him the whole way. She'd have to talk to Mrs. Hentz again. There were too many hall passes from that room. She glanced into the reset room, where Jacob had been wasting time. The noise and commotion in that room were regrettable, but the slogan painted on the wall, "You are perfect," was always a good thing to remember. Though the school was small, Elizabeth regularly walked the halls. Her father, a Navy man, called it leadership by walking around. She ran a taut ship, just like the home she grew up in. Next stop, the financial meeting with Agnes. The school expansion had to happen. She knew the computer lab was on the chopping block. Or would he go after the science lab? A second science lab was imperative. Who was good at grant writing? A computer grant should be the easiest. The Gates Foundation provided the computers for the local library when they built the Shaven branch. Maybe local companies like GE or P&G had STEM grants. As she walked down the hill, she saw Mrs. Smith had her students out in the garden. Old Father Rushman would be so proud, God rest his soul, eating tomatoes right off the vine. When the school started 10 years ago, few of the pupils knew what a tomato vine looked like, much less the nearly sinful pleasure of eating warm fruit right as you picked it. This land had been a farm only 20 years ago. How quickly things changed. No matter. She strode on down the hill to battle.